Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future, coming to you with college and career conversations with Dr. B. Next steps. Um, when I was thinking about what I was going to do this week, as you can see, I don't have a guest this week. I'm working on that guest list diligently. If you know of someone that identifies as BIPOC, who is a career professional who would be interested in being one of the interviewees or having a conversation, please give them my contact information and send them my way. I would definitely appreciate that. So, as I said, this has been the last few weeks have been interesting because students have been applying to colleges and sometimes they're not sure what the next steps are. So, that's what this evening's chat is about, the next steps, and making sure that people have the opportunity to do what's needed and to make sure that they're on the right track. So, I will be back in a few seconds. And please make sure if you have any questions or comments that you put them into the chat area. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know who's out there in the audience. Back in a couple of seconds. Okay, and we are now back. So I thank you so much for folks that are joining. Hi, Deborah Franklin. Thank you so much for joining in this evening. As I said, one of the things I wanted to do as I've been working with my students over the past few weeks on their submissions to college, um, it's like, okay, so what happens now? We sent in the application. What do we do? And this is as much for parents as it is for the students, because sometimes, students don't always come home and tell their parents what their counselor said or what their consultant said about what the next steps are. So this is just for those folks out there that want to know. And like you may have heard some of this already, but that's okay because it's really important to make sure that we're following these steps because students have put so much time and effort into their applications, into their schoolwork in order to help make themselves competitive for college. So we would just want to make sure that they are doing everything they need to do in those next steps. So one of the first things students should be doing, when students apply to colleges, um, the college will ask the student, and this is usually through an email at first, will ask the student to create a student portal. That's the majority of colleges. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, but the majority of colleges will ask students to create a student portal. That is the way the college will communicate with the students. So if materials are missing, the request for the materials will be in the student portal. Um, if students have to do something else or they need to clarify something for someone in admissions, most likely that request will be in the student portal. Admission decisions will be in the student portal. And usually the students will get an email or something ahead of time letting them know that that decisions are coming out. So one of the things that parents and students that I would strongly recommend is that once you apply to a college, go on the college's website and see when the notification dates are. Because sometimes people think, oh, we've sent in our application, 3 weeks have gone by and we haven't heard anything. Many times you can apply early action, which can be as early as October 15th on. And you may not hear until mid-December. You may not hear until mid-January, end of January, beginning of February. Every college has their own notification date. So it's important for you to check that out. So again, check the student portal regularly. And if there's something in there that you don't understand and you're not sure what it is, please don't ignore it. This is where you either reach out to your school counselor, your college counselor, whoever's working with you on helping you get your applications together. Make sure you respond to any of those messages that are in the portal. Now, I remember one time a student was receiving messages in her portal, and she was kind of ignoring them. And then at one point, her mom got a hold of it and said, "What is this about?" And looked at it, and it was actually, she almost missed the deadline for, she had been accepted to her school, but she almost missed the deadline for housing, for the housing deposit. And it's so important because so much information comes through those portals. And our young folks have to get used to the idea that they are the recipients of the information. It's not coming to their parents. So this is one of their first adult duties and responsibilities is to take care of this. Because folks, if they can't handle looking at the portal to check that information, I worry a little bit about them going off to college. Now, I know kids are kids and teenagers are teenagers, but they really need to be responsible for this, and you need to let them be responsible for this with a little bit of nagging thrown in. So, what happens? So, you apply to college, you create your portal, you're asked to maybe send in additional documentation or something like that. So make sure you're checking that. One thing I do want to point out, a lot of times students will get messages, "We don't have your transcript," or "We don't have your letters of recommendation." And then in a panic, they run to their college counselor or their school counselor and say, "You haven't sent these forms in. How come we don't, my school hasn't received them?" 9 times out of 10, it's just that the college has not downloaded those forms into their system. So just because the counselor sends them does not mean they're downloaded and added to your electronic folder right away. It takes some time for all of the work to catch up to one another, all the communication to be in one place. So don't panic. However, if you do get one of those notices, double check. Don't freak out. Don't go crazy. Just take your time, ask your school counselor nicely, and move on from there. So I see we have another comment. So I'm going to go over here. Ah, yes. And so Deborah is saying to us, it's so, so true. She's saying, check it more than once a day. Check it in the morning, noon, and maybe the evening, because those emails can hide among your other emails. So check the portal. Yes, it's so important. One of the things I always encourage my students to do at the very beginning, and for people for the upcoming, rising for next year's seniors and what have you, this is something you need to think about when you get ready to do your college applications. Create a separate email for those applications. For any communication with the college, have a separate email so that all of your college related email will go to that one particular email address. And now you're not fighting through or looking through tons of emails on another site. I don't know about you. I'm pretty bad about some of my emails. I have three, unfortunately. I have three, and one of them, yeah, the inbox is kind of full, and a lot of it is messages that I probably need to delete, but I haven't taken the time to do it yet. So sometimes messages get lost in there. So I have to make sure that I'm checking that frequently. So as Deb said, check it more than once a day, because you never know what's going to show up in there. And you don't want to miss any important messages, because if you do, it could cost something. So once you go ahead, you've applied, all your paperwork is in, letters of recommendation, you wrote the best essay that you could possibly write, your financial aid forms in, everything's in. So now you're waiting for the decision. Now remember what I really strongly recommend that you do, so that you have an idea of when those decisions are coming in. Check the notification dates for each of your colleges. Check it, what is it if you applied early action? What's the notification date if you applied early decision? What's the notification date if you applied regular decision? Regular decision, it might take a little bit longer. And what does it mean when you apply rolling admission? Rolling admission means that you may get an answer anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks out from a college. So they're reviewing applications as they come in. So if you apply to a school that has rolling admission, you might get an answer back sooner than you expect. So again, that's another good reason for you to be checking that portal. So what are the possible decisions? You could receive a decision of accepted. Yay! Because that's what you want, acceptance. You want to see those acceptances. You could receive a decision that says deferred. So if you applied early action or regular decision, you might be deferred. Well, not so much regular decision. Let me back up a little bit. So if you applied, early action or early decision, you might be deferred. Now, you need to check with the college because not all colleges do deferrals. Everybody has their own plans and their own strategies on how they meet their enrollment needs. So what deferred means, so say for example, you apply to a school early action. So folks that apply to North Carolina State, say for example, by their early action deadline, or another school by their early action deadline, and they receive a notice that they were deferred to regular decision. Pay attention to what the college is asking you to do if you receive a deferred decision. Many times they will ask you to send in a mid-year report so they can see how your grades are for the first half of your senior year. Because remember, when you apply to college, they're getting grades from 9 through 11, and they will see what courses you're taking your senior year, but they don't have any grades at the time that you're applying. So maybe, you're on the fence and they're not quite sure about how you would do at their school. So they may defer you and then ask you to send in additional paperwork. And that paperwork could be, we need to see your grades, or it could be, if it's a school that you sent in test scores to and you indicated that you were taking another test, sitting for another administration, and maybe you did better, you would want to let them know. Say, for example, you received an academic award that you did not have when you actually applied to the college. You want to let them know about that. But the most important thing is to read the directions from the college on what they want you to do if you receive a deferred notice. So again, pay attention, follow instructions. Now, sometimes what happens, unfortunately, students may be waitlisted. And what this means is it's kind of like, we're going to wait and see how many students accept our offer. And then if we still have additional seats, we might go to the wait list. And a lot of times people ask, so is the wait list, are you ranked on the wait list? Are you number 1 on the wait list, or are you number 554 on the wait list? The wait list is really about enrollment management. So that's a whole nother topic that actually there are people that out there that do enrollment management that could really speak to that much better than I can. But you have to remember, every college has institutional goals, and every admission office is tasked with bringing in a certain number of people. So they will always accept more people than they think will actually take them up on their offer. If for some reason they haven't met their enrollment goals, that's when they may go to the wait list. So pay attention to that. Look at what that means for you. A lot of times, there are times, I can't say because everything is so different now. It could be that when you go to your, a lot of times they wouldn't go to their wait list till the summertime. So you say, okay, wait a minute, they're not going to go to the wait list until the summertime, but I have to let a college know that I'm going to go to them, like by May 1st, which is the National Decision Day. So to make sure that you have a place to go to, you are going to have to deposit on a college. Several things could happen. You could get off the wait list for the school that you really want to go to, your number 1 choice. You can do that knowing that you may lose that deposit for the other school. So as long as you're willing to lose the deposit, that's fine. Some schools may refund the deposit. Again, you have to read what the school's policy is so that you know what's going to happen. And finally, the fourth thing that you may say is you just may be denied. They may say no, for whatever reason, we cannot offer you a space at our school this year. And sometimes students they take it so personal. And it really isn't. I think one of the most important things I want you to remember is that college is a business. And as I talked about, yield and filling seats and meeting enrollment goals and what have you, colleges have to do that. They have to pay the light bills, they have to pay their professors, they have to pay for all that construction that's taking place, they have to pay for the scholarships that they're offering to incoming students and current students. So sometimes, you may look at that denial and not have and say, well, why did I get denied and so got in and their profile is as strong academically as mine? You don't know all the ins and outs of somebody else's application. You don't know what the college's institutional goals may be. So the college has a pretty valid reason on their part for why they do that. Now, that we've got those schools out there that are doing acceptances like in the single digits. You take your chances with those wild card schools because you could stand on your head, get straight A's, perfect SAT, ACT scores, be on the verge of curing cancer, and still not get into one of those schools. So again, look at your other list. That's why it's at the other schools that you're applying to. That's why it's so important to have a balanced list. And please, one of the things I urge all students, please do not have colleges on your list that you really don't want to go to, that you only have them on the list because, mom and dad or aunt and uncle or someone in the family said, yeah, just put it on there. Let's just see what happens. If you really know you don't want to go there, don't spend your time applying to a school that doesn't interest you at all. I really, I hate when I see young folks do that. Here's one of the important things. So now, you get into school, you got to pay for it. The federal government, the expectation is that families will pay for their students' post-secondary education. I think somehow in this country, we've gotten, when I hear people talk about financial aid, they're like, well, how do they expect me to pay for this? Now, yes, college is too expensive. I am going to be the first one to agree with that. But the expectation is that if you're in a certain income bracket, that you will figure out how to pay it. I'm not trying to sound callous about it, but that's really just the way it is. Probably the two most important financial aid documents that you have to take care of is the free application for federal student aid, which opened up October 1st. So if you have not done that yet, please do it. And some institutions do require the CSS profile. The majority of schools that require the profile are private universities, but there are about 5 public universities, including the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the University of Michigan that require the CSS profile. Most important, so I just gave that October 1st date. So of course, we are past October 1st. So if you haven't done so, please fill out those forms if they're required. Remember, not everybody has to do the profile. One of the things you need to make sure that you do, again, check the financial aid deadlines for your colleges. Sometimes the financial aid deadline is the same deadline for when the admission application is due. Sometimes it's later. So you need to know that. So again, that's information that you need to know so that you can act accordingly. So this is families, students, make sure you take care of this. There's information, you just go to studentaid.gov and you can find out all the information that you need about the FAFSA. As far as the CSS profile, that is a document that is owned by the College Board. So you can go on their website. You can just, do an internet search for CSS profile to find out what schools require the CSS profile. Another thing that sometimes may happen to students, and this is, oh my God, I hate this with a passion. It's called FAFSA Verification. So the way it works is that students may be chosen randomly. And sometimes, a lot of times, we're kind of wondering, are they only choosing students that are low income? Because it seems like sometimes low income students have to jump through more than one hoop. So again, that's just an observation out there. So FAFSA verification means that you will be asked by a college to send in additional tax documents to verify the information that you put on your free application for federal student aid. They will tell you what information they need. Sometimes, no, most of the time, this verification can be so confusing and complex. It's important that you seek help. Ask your school counselor. You can call, studentaid.ed.gov to get additional information on how to do it. If you're not sure and you need someone to walk you through it, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help someone that is struggling with verification. But it's something that you have to do if you've been asked to do it. And as I said, most of the time people are chosen randomly. So it's not that you did anything wrong. It's just a process that the federal government asks colleges to do. So again, don't say, what did I do wrong? Am I in trouble? Or did I fill out something wrong? No, but the most important thing is to follow the directions. So for those people that are just joining in, I'm just going over about 6 or 7 facts that I think the next steps that folks need to be taking after they apply for college, and what they should be doing in the meantime, in addition to keeping up their grades and taking care of business in that way. So again, these are just some of the things that are coming up. There are other little things depending upon your school and what your school may require, but these are some of the big things, some of the standard things that everybody is going to have to do. And this one, actually, I should have put up, multiple times. Pay attention to deadlines. You have to pay attention to deadlines. You have to pay attention to your application deadlines, your financial aid deadlines. If somebody wants another form in for something, is there a deadline for that? Are you getting it in on time? So please, 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 please pay attention to deadlines, because it makes me crazy when people don't pay attention to deadlines and then they're like, oh, but now they won't take it. You can always ask. But it doesn't always happen. So once you fill out your financial aid forms and you've submitted your application, so a lot of times folks think that, oh, as soon as I get a notification back as far as what my admission decision is, I'll automatically get my financial aid package. You may or may not get your financial aid package. Typically, if you're applying early decision, you will get your financial aid package, financial award letter pretty quick. Folks that have applied early action or regular decision, it may be longer. So again, you need to pay attention to see when that school is going to be sending out their financial award letters. Many times it will be on the website under the financial aid tab, or you can always call or reach out to the financial aid office and ask them. It's important that you compare your different packages, your award letters, to see which school is meeting the budgetary needs of your family. And there are several, calculators and worksheets where you can compare costs. I will make sure that I put those in the show notes, that you have those. College Board has one, and there are quite a few others that there are more coming online as this work becomes more and more crucial to everyone. So again, paying attention to those deadlines, reading, getting that financial information, the financial award letters, and paying attention to what they're saying. So if you get a letter and it says that you've been awarded a scholarship from a school or a grant from a school, one of the things you want to make sure you check is this 4 years? Is this renewable? Or is it a grant that's just for 1 year? Because if it's just for 1 year, then you've got to figure out how you make up that difference the second, third, and fourth year. If it's renewable, are there criteria to keep it? Many times there may be a GPA requirement in order to keep a scholarship or a grant offered by a college. It may say that you need to have a 3.0 or 2.5 or a 3.8. It all depends. So again, this is where it's important for students to do their research and to write down all this information so they know exactly what it is that they need to do in order to hold on to their scholarships. So do that. So one of as we move forward, May 1st is the National College Decision Day, and this is the date when students are supposed to notify colleges of which college they're going to say yes to. Remember that show, Say Yes to the Dress? So this is like say yes to the college. So this is what you're doing there. This is when you're going to be sending in your deposit and your admission deposit. Your housing deposit may have been in earlier, uh, but again, you want to see if you can make a decision before then so that you can get all that stuff done. Because once you make your decision, you're going to have more stuff to do. There will be, I always tell my students one of the things you need to check if you're covered under your parents' healthcare policy, you need to make sure that the college knows that so that their student health care is not part of your bill, but they don't know that unless you tell them that. And so once you're accepted and you have decided on a school, you will get lots of information about what admitted students are supposed to do. There's an admitted students day. Many of them, most of them were virtual last year. I think right now, I'm not, I can't tell you what each school is doing because we don't know what's going to happen with this new variant that's on the horizon. But again, if it requires you to go to the college, then that's what you do, or if they give you a virtual option. But you definitely want to go to Acceptance Student Day because so much information comes out of there. This is where sometimes at Admitted Student Day, you'll get to meet your advisor, the person who's going to work with you throughout your first year in college to advise you on what classes to take. This is where you will meet other people that are coming into that same class that you're coming into. You may even have opportunities to learn about some of the clubs and organizations that are available to you on campus. So again, Admitted Student Day is really important, and you want to make sure that you participate in it. So any questions out there? Any comments? Anybody want to add something to it? This is going to be like short and sweet because as students start getting in their acceptances, each one may be different depending upon what the student needs to do. So please make sure when you get your acceptances, please let your school counselors know. School counselors, in public schools in particular, have such ridiculously large caseloads. And it's really difficult for them to run after their seniors, to get information from their seniors, and take care of their 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students at the same time. So seniors, you would be doing your school counselors a big favor if, as you got accepted to a school, that you let them know. Some schools have Navient, some have Maya Learning, some have Power School, some have SCORE. There are different student management systems that high schools use. If you have access to yours and you're able to put that information in there on your own, save your counselor some time and headache and do it for them. I mean, it's really difficult when you have a large caseload and you're trying to get information from students yeah, I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you. It's important that school counselors know that you've been accepted. Once you've been accepted to a school and you have deposited at a school, it is important that you notify the other schools that you are not accepting their offer of admission. Don't leave them hanging. Don't ignore that you received an acceptance from them. Please reach out to them and let them know that you are not going to be attending their school. And there are several ways you can do that. There may be something in their portal that lets you know how to do that. It just may be as simple as checking a box in the student portal. It may be sending an email to the admission person that worked with you. But somehow you need to communicate to the colleges that you are not going to attend that you are not coming there so that they have that on record. So please, please, please make sure you do that. Just make it easier. Let your school counselors know. If you receive a scholarship or a grant, whether it's an outside scholarship or whether it's something through the college, a college that you admitted to, not even just the one you're accepted to. I know as a school counselor, one of the things that I always wanted to do was to keep track of what types of scholarships and grants our students were receiving. That would help me in the following years when I had students applying to those same schools. And then I could say, well, this student with this academic profile and maybe these extracurricular activities was able to be competitive for a scholarship of this amount from this particular school. So it gives us an idea of how it may play out for another student. So I really appreciate it. And I know school counselors out there and college consultants out there really appreciate it when students give them that message, that messages and information about what colleges have given them any type of financial aid, scholarships, grants, whatever it is. Let your counselor know about that. So one of the things that I always do. So remember, again, if you have any questions, you know how to reach out to me. You know where my, you have my email. You can always reach me through my Facebook page. Yeah, so we have a comment here again from Deborah. Deborah, thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate it. And for those of you that are tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope that you find something here that is going to help you. So Deborah is saying that when she went back to school to get a paralegal diploma, she couldn't get financial aid because she had a degree, but there is financial assistance out there because of COVID-19. There definitely is quite a bit of CARES money out there. So think about what you want to do in 2022, no matter how old you are. That's right. You're never too old to go back to school. I always tell people, I went back to school to get my doctorate when I was in my 50s. It was something I always wanted to do. And I kept saying, it's like, 35. And I said, yeah, I'll go and get it. Then, another 5 years. Oh, I'll go and get it. Next thing I know, I was in my 50s. And I remember thinking, okay, if I don't do it now, and I'm never going to do it. And I remember I actually was thinking of not doing it. And one of my good friends, Dr. Patricia Naylor, said to me, you can be 3 years older with the degree or without the degree. And I'm like, that was right. So I did go back and got my doctorate. It was not the most fun. It was work, but I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do it. So one of the other things, I just want to explain why I was later today than usual, because usually I'm on at 7 Eastern time versus 8. But I was watching this webinar put on by folks who were the authors of this book, We Are Meant to Rise, Voices for Justice from Minneapolis to the World. It was really interesting. So it's a project where multiple authors, whether they wrote essays, poems, or what have you, and they're all from the Minneapolis area, and they're just talking about the areas of social injustice and unrest that they've experienced and their feelings and what's happened. And it's people from all walks of life, all, full diversity in there. So I wanted to see as much of that as possible live versus the recording. So that's why I moved this back a little bit. But I do want to make sure that we see a book. I always want to do a book. And I love this book. Okay. It's called Humans, and it's by Brandon Stanton, who is the author of Humans of New York. And if any of you follow his Facebook page, and where he talks about the humans of New York. It is absolutely amazing. One of the reasons I like this, and I think this book would be a great present for a student, high school student, even younger, middle school student, they can work through it. It really shows that we're more alike than different, and that everybody has something. And because students are applying to college, and sometimes they have to write an essay that has to be pretty reflective about who they are, I think this gives them a good idea of what someone's story could look like, what a narrative could be like. It doesn't mean that their stories are similar, or the same, or they've had the same lived experiences, but it gives them an idea of how to humanize something that's happened in their lives or has not happened in their lives, or just talk about their ordinary lives. And Brandon does such a great job of this. So again, this is my book for this evening. It's called Humans, and he actually, in this particular one, he has interviewed people from all over the world, and some of the places are Paris, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, Jakarta, Montreal, Kampala, Saigon, Montevideo, Moscow, Auckland, Melbourne, Sydney, Toronto, Cairo, Jerusalem, Bangkok, Florence, Barcelona, so on and so forth. So again, this evening's book is Humans by Brandon Stanton, who is the author of The Humans of New York. And every now and then, I know when I bought this copy last year, actually, um, they were having a sale. Every now and then, a sale might appear for this book, and it's usually just for like 24 hours. So pay attention. You might see that out there. So I thank everyone for joining in this evening. And I would just like to ask folks that if you know of someone, especially in the 10th or 11th grade, that is looking for a college consultant and needs some extra assistance with college planning, please have them reach out to me, Dr. B, at stepstothefuture.com. I would love to help people um, eliminate those random acts of college planning. So thank you everyone who joined in. As I said, I will put in the show notes some of that information about the different tools that you can use to compare financial award letters, because it's really important to do that. And I will see you next Monday. Fingers crossed there will be a guest. And again, thank you so much for joining in, and have a wonderful evening and enjoy the rest of your week. Dr. B from Steps to the Future. Take care.